work. We're back again, everybody. You're probably worried.
They're worried that we're going to show up again is what they're worried about.
That could be.
Like 45 episodes, how much longer we have to put up with these idiots? That's what I think they mostly think.
Probably a while longer, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. I would say we have to get to at least episode 50 before we quit. So
Yeah. I don't want to quit on 45. That just seems silly.
that's the way it would be lame.
It would be.
All right, I'm sharing this everywhere. So
Cool. What's up, Shawn?
Oh, not too much. How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
Yeah, doing all right.
We're getting ready for. We're doing a special show up at Granite Arms next week for the Christmas practice. We're looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. You should come.
Yeah, I wish I could, but I'm tired of traveling all the time for work, so I'm just going to stay.
Yeah, so all right, let's start from the beginning, Shawn. What how long you been arm wrestling, and what I know you obviously everybody knows you're a power lifter, bench presser and stuff like that. What came first for you, and how did you become an arm wrestler?
Well, I power lifted for like 12 years, mostly bench press. I did a little bit of deadlift. I stayed away from the squat because I was terrible at it.
Oh.
I did that up until 2008.
Okay.
I got kind of bored with it. And one of my coworkers is actually Nicole Cisco.
Okay.
And she started trying to talk me into arm wrestling. And I told her that was a terrible idea. I was going to hurt myself. And she wound up giving me Jim Bryan's contact information. And he's been coaching me for 8 years now. So it just kind of clicked together and it worked. And it's been fun. So
you're still training with that gym?
Yeah, we've got a really good crew. We've got, depending on the week, anywhere from 8 to 25 people at a practice. So we've got a good crew. We got a good group of guys. It works out really well for us.
Yeah, I remember Team Dungeon came down there a number of years ago, and I remember Columba bringing the equalizer strap.
Yeah,
and playing with Marcio, and you're like, oh, there's no way this is horse shit. You put that thing on, everybody's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that stuff's fun, man.
Yeah, so we have at a practice we've got 4 tables, and you're waiting in line for a table most of the time. So we've got a pretty good crew.
That's a great problem to have.
Mm.
So I went to Worlds with one of your teammates, Paul Parnetti.
Yeah.
He said he usually takes you out pretty easily in practice. At least that's what he told us over there. So.
Yeah, you got to watch him. He's sneaky.
So let me ask you this. When you first started arm wrestling, like your first couple tournaments, first of all, how did you do? Did you feel like the power differential you had from powerlifting like transitioned easily, or did you have to figure out how to use that strength?
Well, see, here's the problem. Coming from powerlifting, I was strong in exactly all of the wrong places. And I was weak everywhere where I should be strong to arm wrestle. Mm-hmm. So it took me the first 2 years to actually figure out what I should be doing in terms of training. I found out that I had, zero bicep strength because I had not trained them in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
No direct training. It was all incidental from doing back work and stuff. But, I could be opened up by, anybody. It was horrible. We tell this story at practice when people are having trouble, when they're new guys and they're trying to get used to it and they're getting their butt kicked all day. We got a kid on our team. At the time, he was 15 years old. And he spent the first 3 months whooping my ass. I'm a 400-pound, 900-pound benching power lifter in the corner getting beat up by this 15-year-old tubby kid. So,
Welcome to arm wrestling.
yeah, exactly. So, you had to eat your humble pie and, work your way up. And, at that time we had Christian Binney coming to practice all the time. So, it was like the range of, from me to a top super heavyweight was like this, Grand Canyon between me and where I tried to get to. So it was rough.
It's impressive, though. I think, generally when we have people that are notable in some other kind of, sport, whether it's a strength sport or whatever, and they come over to arm wrestling and they experience exactly what you did, they tend to either not last very long or disappear. Because, as you said, it is like eating humble pie for all of us. But especially for someone like you who's, bench pressing at the very top of the world to come into a sport and have to deal with, a 15-year-old kid beating you, I think most people would have quit and walked right out the door.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot. And I don't know whether it's, a drive to succeed or I just wasn't smart enough to quit. I'm not sure which
It's
one.
a little bit of both with arm wrestlers in general.
But I'm glad I stuck with it because it's worked out well and I've had a lot of fun over the last 8 years. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. The first time I saw you, Shawn, was at I think it was 2014. I was just talking to John about this. 2014. First time I saw you in person at the USAA Nationals when you and Jerry Cartwright were in the finals, left-handed, and you won.
Oh yeah,
that was a lot of fun, man. I was the first time I'd seen you live. It was impressive because Jerry is also a sizable human being. So between the two of you guys, it was like 740 pounds worth of arm wrestler on the table.
Yeah, that was a good tournament. Jerry tried to go tricep to tricep with me, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know if you watched. You must have watched the left-handed stuff this year at WAL. What'd you think of it?
It kind of turned out the way I expected it to, but I was a little disappointed in some of the refereeing. There was some stuff that got by there that, it was like, well, we're just going to put this on a silver platter, and here you go, Travis.
A little, yeah.
Not that he couldn't have won it anyways,
right?
But,
yeah. Right, yeah. How do you think you would have matched up with Ryan Espy?
I don't know.
Yeah.
When I pulled Espy in 2015, he took my arm apart.
Oh.
He tore a tendon and 2 ligaments when he hit me.
Oh.
So that's a rematch I want. I don't know if I was quite ready for it this year, though. So he's got a nasty hard hit, and I had an old injury that he finished off.
Yeah. What was the recovery like on that injury?
It took me about 6 months. I had platelet-rich plasma injections done.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Instead of surgery, and it actually healed pretty good. So I'm back to stronger than I've been since I initially injured it in like 2012.
So obviously you're left-hand dominant on the table. Are you left-handed in general?
I'm right-handed.
So what's the deal with your right arm? Is it there's some kind of issue?
Well, I've got throughout my entire history of athleticism, my right arm has been my weak side. It's just always been that way. When I was benching, if I was going to fail, it's because my right elbow wouldn't lock out. It was always the weak side. My right shoulder's been damaged for a long time, so I think that plays into it some.
Yeah.
I never got it fixed. It still works okay, but it's nowhere near as strong as it could be. And it's just never been my dominant strength side.
Well, I mean, most of us are like that, but I think it's interesting because sometimes I'm like you. I'm also right-handed, but my left is a little injured now. But I've always been better lefty, and I feel like my right hand I do a lot of like fine motor control stuff, and I almost feel like arm wrestling responds better if you're not as sensitive with your arm. So I don't know if that holds true or anything. It just popped in my mind right now, but at least it's true for me.
Yeah, the other thing I've kind of picked up on when I've thought about it is I think about off the wall things like that when I got nothing else to do. It's like you do all the fine motor control stuff with your dominant hand, right? So you're opening the door, you're putting the key in the lock, you're doing all that stuff with your right hand, and you're carrying the 14 bags of groceries with your left hand.
Your left hand, exactly.
Because I'm not making 2 trips, I can get it all. Right? So I think you tend to use the non-dominant hand for more brute force.
Yeah.
And for me, since I'm more of a brute force arm wrestler, it kind of plays in for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would describe your style as like a. I mean, it's like a top roll, but I've seen you hook too. I mean, you hooked Devin in the regional. I think it was a regional finals a couple of years back. But it seems like you mostly try to come over the top of people.
Yeah, I've been a top roller since I started. I don't know if most people know this or not, but Team New Jersey is a whole group of top rollers, and not too many of them know how to hook.
Yeah.
So I've never really had anybody who could really teach me how to hook. I kind of had to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
And I never figured out how to hook until probably 4 years into the sport. And by the time I figured it out, I still didn't know how to get myself into it. You had to put me in it. And I had to accidentally lock up and be in a hook.
So the best way you learned how to hook was from a defensive angle.
Exactly.
Good.
That's the political way to put it, man. That's a great euphemism. I'm going to write that one down. There's a pen.
So it's only been maybe the last 2 or 3 years that I've gotten smart enough with a hook to be able to actually use it as an offensive weapon. And I'm still not where I want to be with it. It's nowhere close to the power I have with my top roll. But it's effective. It's just not my best option.
Did anything in your powerlifting career like help your rotation at all? Because it seems like that kind of took off on you pretty quick.
No, not that I know of. Powerlifting, from a hand standpoint is more static.
Yeah.
So I had good finger strength from that. But from a rotation standpoint, I don't think I've ever done anything in my life until I started arm wrestling to enhance rotation. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just one of those things. I just happen to be kind of natural at it. So it just felt right.
Right.
Let me get a question in here because it sort of fits in with what we're talking about. It's from Evan. He wants to know if your arm wrestling training style reflects your former powerlifting training in regards to how heavy you train and how often, etc.
Training is a problem for me. I've spent years trying to let go of the way I used to train, and I'm still bad at it. I still want to do big, heavy bench presses, even though they're completely useless for arm wrestling.
Gotcha.
I still want to deadlift. They're completely useless for arm wrestling. I have a hard time letting go of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've had to force myself to adopt more arm wrestling specific kind of movements and do more lighter weight, higher repetition stuff to try to build some stamina and things like that. And it sucks. I hate it. I want to go back to a 1 rep max all the time.
So basically, you're trying to adapt your training to meet the sport.
I've tried. I've done a lot of things over the last couple of years a lot differently. Number one, I haven't been in the gym anywhere near as much. So, I haven't been doing a lot of the powerlifting stuff. And I haven't had the training partners I used to have. A couple guys got different jobs and stuff, so I haven't had the powerlifting guys that I used to lift weights with around. So I've been lifting by myself a lot more. So there's a lot of things I just can't do because I'm by myself.
Right.
So that's helped me adapt some. And I've bought some different training tools and stuff that are helping a little bit, and gotten to where I'm focusing a little bit more on things that are more advantageous on the table versus, benching all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting hearing you say that because, the conventional wisdom is that bench pressing isn't very useful. But, I mean, you've talked to people that you definitely, particularly in a hook, it seems like engaging the chest, even though it's a different, it's a linear motion in bench pressing versus that kind of circular tight stuff that we do in the hook. It still seems like there's got to be some carryover. I mean, it's hard to imagine.
I think there is.
Yeah, good.
But to the extremes of a power lifter versus the way an arm wrestler uses it, it's a completely different type of strength, right?
Yeah.
That lock and hold is very opposite from the explosive movement that a power lifter does. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't work the same. I mean, I honestly build most of my arm wrestling strength on the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do things in the gym as much as I can, but I don't think it adds up to all that much on the table. Because I've taken 6 months out of the gym and been just as strong on the table.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And then I'll hit it hard for 6 months, and I don't really improve on the table.
Yeah. And how is it different as far as like arm wrestling versus powerlifting? Where arm wrestling we talk about table time, then we talk about gym time, versus powerlifting just all gym time. Like how is that?
Yeah.
How does that work out in your brain to kind of make improvements?
It took a long time for me to get over that. I've got to be in the gym 4 days a week. And what actually happened, though, is when I got over it, now I'm lucky if I'm in the gym 1 day a week.
Gotcha. Once you got over it, you really got over it.
Yeah, exactly. And my gym's in my basement, so I could actually fall down the steps and be there. But
yeah, because most of the work, we all know that being on the table, training hard on the table, is pretty damaging. So
it is.
The fact that you don't necessarily have to be killing it in the gym during the week if you're getting getting what's good off the table. That must be quite a bit different than powerlifting as far as how you build.
It is, and I don't miss a practice. If there's not a tournament, we have practice every week, and that's where I'm doing the vast majority of my work. The gym stuff I look at as accessory work. The table time is the important thing. That's the part I care about. If I get in the gym, great. If I don't,
Yeah, I hear you. And you train once a week on the table?
Yeah.
That's the standard. Most people we talk to, that's what they're doing. For every Devin or Matt Mask, there's 10 or 15 people like you training once a week on the table. I don't know. We go back and forth on that all the time. Obviously, John Brown is one of the guys that trains almost every day on the table. I do 2 or 3 times a week, and I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it does help with the table strength, especially in the hook. I feel like just doing that hook nice and tight 3 times a week, it makes the gains add up a little bit more quickly than just weightlifting. But that's part of the reason we do this show, Shawn, is because we were like, how does everybody else train? So we start talking to people, and like there's a few parallels, but there's also quite a bit of differentiation. People like you have huge levels of strength overall. It's interesting talking to you guys because it's, we talked to a few people who have, just massively strong, and they've all said the same thing, that they struggled transitioning that strength into arm wrestling. So it confuses everything even more when you try to figure it out.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like everybody's got an idea and everybody thinks their idea is best.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So it's like, okay, which one's really good? I don't know.
Well, that's kind of like, talking with powerlifters or weightlifters. I've heard this quote that, a bad program that you believe in 100% is better than a program that you don't believe in that might be a little better. And we're always looking for the next one. I mean, a year from now, my training could be completely different, and I'll believe in that just as hard as I believe in mine right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's natural. I mean, if it's working for you, you're going to go along with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it should be, right? I mean, you should always be searching for whatever's going to work for that next adaptation period. If you just stick with the same thing, like I hear people they train a certain amount of time, and then after 6 months, I feel great now. I train this way. I barely even feel sore anymore. Mm-hmm. Then you better change something because you're probably not going to keep getting any better.
Right.
Yeah.
People can't wait to feel good.
Yeah.
Train the same amount.
Yeah. Then there's the other guys who switch their training technique every 2 weeks and wonder why it didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. I've been lifting weights for 10 days and I'm no stronger than I was before.
Exactly.
This program sucks.
Well, there's a lot of impatience in the sport too. I was sort of speaking about that earlier with the humbleness and everything. But I mean, you see a lot of people will do exactly what John said. They're switching weight classes left and right, switching the way they train. They're doing all heavy stuff. They're doing all cable stuff. They're doing more table time. And I mean, the key aspect of this sport, which pretty much everyone has said, except for maybe 1 or 2 people, for the vast majority of us, it's patience and time on the table, and 5 or 6 years of solid training, and you start to get good.
Yeah, and that's very true. we've got a lot of young guys on our team, and not necessarily young, but young in the sport.
Sure.
And, we're constantly trying to keep them, chin up and looking at the progress they've made because they all feel like they're not getting anywhere.
Sure.
And we've got some guys who are, Joe Galgochi, he's a 242. At pretty much any tournament he goes to, he's a top 3 guy.
He is strong.
Oh, yeah. He's really
He's
strong.
got a nasty, strong hook. He's got a really good hand. But he's got this problem that he trains with me, so he's always trying to compare himself to my strength.
Yeah.
And he can't figure out my hand, so it drives him nuts.
Yeah.
And I can top roll him from anywhere out of that hook, and it drives him nuts. But then, he feels weak at practice. Then he goes to a tournament and mows everybody down.
Yeah, he does. He's a beast. He's a beast. He was just up here for the New England Championships. He did well.
Yeah, but it's hard for a guy like that when he gets beat up every week at practice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To have a feel for where he is against everybody else.
Yeah, it's definitely. I had to go through that myself because I started training with Ron Klumba right off the bat.
Yeah.
So we're in the same weight class, and for years and years and years and years, he's just smashing me every week, smashing me. And I had to go to tournaments, and I felt like everybody in my class was Ron Klumba. They were, oh my God, I'm last in line every time. And then eventually you kind of have enough experience where you go, oh wait, no, not everybody's Ron Klumba. I'm with these guys. Like,
yeah. And then I've got to tell these guys at the time, listen, keep in mind, you're not in my weight class.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nobody's in your weight class. Let's be honest.
Did you ever feel like that some of your strengths that you brought in were actually a hindrance? Like maybe people were exploiting something that
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, I've found where there's a lot of places where I'm strong that is just totally not useful for arm wrestling.
Sure.
And it took me a few years to stop trying to use that. Right? I know my tricep is strong. Unless I'm pulling a flop wrist press, guy, it's not that useful on the table.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a small group of those guys that I'm going to use that against. So, hey, wake up. Stop trying to use that thing. It's not going to help you anymore.
Yeah.
All right, let me get some of these questions in. There's a whole bunch of them stacked up here. William Gines, who's up on Granite Arms, he wanted to know who's been your most difficult opponent throughout your career?
My biggest problem opponent is Wilton Brock.
I just watched one of the matches you had with him.
That guy has kryptonite in his pocket. My name on it. I can't do anything with him. I don't know why.
That's the worst part. It's like if you know why, it's not so bad, but man.
Honestly, I have a better shot pulling Travis than I do Wilton. And I
agree.
Can't figure out what to do with it.
I 100% agree with you on that. Me and Josh were talking about that before, where one of the first times I was around you was in Buffalo, I think in 2011.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and you guys went to war. I think you put him on the B side early on, didn't you?
No, he put me on the B side.
Okay.
I came back in the finals. He fouled out against me as I stalled him center of the table and he couldn't move me. Mm-hmm. So I got one win, and then he got the slip the next time, and straps and it was over.
Right.
So
he's very powerful.
That was when he thought he was tough that day. He decided to shoulder me, and I got mad, and Tim Bresnan had to pull us apart.
I remember. I remember well.
John was like, I wasn't going to bring that up. But that's how you should have started. Remember that time you almost had a fight with him at Buffalo? That would have been how I would have started the story, John. We got to work on him. He's not an investigative journalist.
Then we'd still be trying to figure out which tournament that was.
Yeah, right.
All right, so Dave Morocco wants you to top roll Micah Yellow this weekend. And Harold Owens was asking, what's your next tournament? So I'm assuming it's this weekend?
Yeah, Dave Morocco is running a Rockwell tournament this weekend in Maryland.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's running a invite class for super heavyweights there. Unfortunately, he's running it right hand, but hell, I jumped in anyways. So we'll see what I can do.
Have you pulled Micah Yellow? You must have.
Yeah, we've pulled probably 5 times. I've beat him once. I think it's like 1 out of 5 I've gotten him.
Well, Dave suggested you top roll him.
Yeah, that's definitely a good plan because his hook sucks.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you don't want to hurt his feelings by beating him there.
Well, first I'd have to be able to.
What are you talking about? That great defensive hook you've been working on? That should hold him off for a while.
You know what? He's one of those guys I have a problem with. He's got that long forearm, and he uses his leverage to his advantage, and he does like a low sweeping hook across the table at you. And it's really hard to get into a good hook position with him without finding yourself, palm up away from your body.
Yeah.
It's a good move, and it works well for his body type.
Yeah, his hook, for as long of an arm as he has, he goes almost straight down.
Yeah, he does.
So you just end up completely on your bicep. And for someone with an arm that long, it's kind of rare to see somebody hooked that way.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever intended to do it. I think it's one of those things you kind of fall into, and all of a sudden it works, so you keep doing it, and now it's amazing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, it does happen. I mean, like he always talks about, he does it as a hobby and he loves it, but I think that all of that kind of stuff ties together, and he focuses on that one technique. And it's like other sports, judo or what have you. If you do nothing but that one thing over and over and over again, you're going to get incredibly good at it.
Yeah, and I think that's where he's at too. That hook is nasty.
So let's see here. Rick North, who's a promoter in Rhode Island, was the first person to bring up Scott Mendelson. It took him 12 minutes.
Wow,
we were on the show for 12 minutes. I was like, he basically wants to know, do you have any interest in pulling him?
I was actually supposed to pull him in like September. Ray Cote was running a tournament. I forget what it was. It was some kind of a benefit tournament. He wanted me to pull Scott. They tried to set it up like 9 months in advance, and then Scott wouldn't do it. So
Kenny Smith chimed in here and saying that he thinks you would crush Scott, and I think that you would crush Scott. I mean, Scott may at some point develop, what you did, basically going through all the pain and agony of having people that you are much stronger than beat you until you start to figure out how to put your strength in the right places. He's not there yet. I don't think it would be a very good match at this point.
No, I don't think it would either. The problem Scott has is he's a legend in his own mind, and he always has been. I've known him for 15 years. All right?
Yeah.
He has always been the greatest at everything. He's the most awesome person in the world. Just ask him; he'll tell you about it for about 4 hours.
He did.
So I think it's very hard for him to be humble, and I'm not sure he could spell it. I'll probably get a phone call later about this, but
he seems like he's pretty good at giving it out and taking it. So
he is, and it's funny because he's unapologetic about it, right? Yeah. He is the way he is. He's happy being the way he is.
Yeah,
and you just got to kind of deal with it. And I can kind of respect that.
Yep.
And I've known him forever, and I'm actually good friends with his sister. She lives in Long Island. We've been friends forever. So she's a power lifter, and she does Highland Games and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that tournament was probably the 9/11 tournament out in California.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I went out to that tournament. He came, and that's where he lost to Herman and Travis. And it was a hard day for him, that's for sure. But
well, Herman is a nightmare for anybody. First
Correct.
of all, and especially if you're not comfortable with that kind of hit, no matter who you are, it's going to be a bad day for you.
Yeah.
Do you think? What do you think? Do you think he's going to stick around? Or do you think he's going to be gone, or is he already gone?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything out of him here in a couple of months.
I haven't heard anything since that tournament. Really?
Yeah. So I don't know.
You two are really the only extremely high level power. I mean, there's been plenty of powerlifters. Harold Owens we had on last week is another powerlifter, but you two guys are at the elite level, and I don't think anyone, am I missing somebody, John? Those are the only two I remember ever trying this sport seriously, and it seems like it's not easy to do. So I'll be impressed if he sticks around. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to swallow that, right?
Yeah,
I'm the greatest. To I suck 10 minutes later. Yeah. Really, really hard to stomach.
Yeah, it is hard to stomach.
It is very tough. It's hard to be elite at anything and then be terrible at something else. I mean, that's what like martial arts and this sport, or if you were to try to play soccer, it'd be the same thing. You would suck at it.
Yeah. it's just hard to accept that, but it's reality. So you either suck it up and keep going, or go find something you're good at.
Yeah, and some people, think it really sucks and it hurts and all that, and then some people get excited about it.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult to dominate in two sports. I mean, Alexei Boveda is one guy who did, the bobsledding and arm wrestling, but most people don't reach the top of two sports in their lifetime.
Well, it's hard to do, and I haven't actually been at the top. I've been close to the top.
You're pretty close. Close. I can't wait to see what happens this year. I assume are you gonna do WAL and try to go to the finals.
I'm gonna do the qualifiers. We'll see what happens. Last year I didn't do the finals because I was busy buying a house at the time, and the way their money was looking and the way my performance was looking, it wouldn't have made sense at that point for me to go out there and spend money to not be able to break even.
Right.
When I bought a house the day before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Was there a chance also in your mind that you could re-aggravate that injury too? And
I wasn't too worried about that. I qualified both hands, but my right was not ready for it at all.
Oh, okay.
I would not have pulled right.
So you're already going out there with half potential of earnings too. Yeah.
And then my left, I think I could have placed top 4, top 5, but looking at the way the payouts were, it really spelled divorce. So.
Good decision. Good decision.
Yeah, because the way the timing worked out, I would have had to close on the house and go to the airport.
Yeah, that would have been tough.
So
it's not good anyway. I mean, you got to focus. You have to be 100%. If you got other things on your mind, it's going to impact the way you perform anyway. So it's probably a good decision.
Yeah, so I decided not to do that, and I've put a lot more effort into just training since then. And I've been my left, I think, is back to full power now, where I'm real confident in my ability, and I think my right is better than it's ever been. It's just still not where I want it. So,
right.
So I'm hoping, right now I'm ranked well for my left, so I should be in left hand. Right, I've got to advance at least 3 spots to be in, or else I've got to go to that grade 8 tournament that they're talking about. So we got to see how the qualifying works out with all that to see if I can make it in with my right hand or not.
Mm-hmm. It is a bit confusing, but I mean, I think most of the changes they have done, people seem to be at least optimistic about, if not outwardly positive.
Yeah, well, if you look at the structure they're doing, they're kind of back to what they did in 2014, which I actually liked better, the way they set it up then, rather than doing the regionals and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. This might work better. We'll have to see how it plays out.
We will. Michael wants to know, do you prefer super matches or tournaments?
I prefer tournaments. I've only been in a couple of super matches, and it's a totally different thing when you're trying to get ready for a single person versus the be ready for anything that you need at a tournament.
Yeah.
And I have trouble being that focused to just train for one person. I don't work well under that circumstance.
So training for one move, or defensive against one move, or offensive in a certain direction, just that's it. Doesn't really work for you in your brain.
No, it's. I guess it's a boredom thing. You keep drilling it and drilling it and drilling. It's like, all right, guys, I got it. I'm tired of this. Yeah, but we need to drill it.
Right, to make that one thing so bulletproof. It does take. It's a bit monotonous.
Yeah, and it drives me nuts. So.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I'm the one doing the coaching for a lot of the other guys too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to have them coach me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of me and Jim Bryan kind of split the coaching duties.
Sure.
And it's kind of hard for anybody there to coach either of us. So it's getting ready for something like that just isn't. It's kind of. I don't know. It's boring and tedious, and it's just.
You're not going to get a lot of challenges for super matches after this show, I don't think.
or a lot. Maybe I can beat him then.
The couple of times I've tried to get super matches where somebody's going, "Hey, we want to have super matches at our tournament. Who wants one?" There's a limited number of people who are willing to pull my left arm.
Yeah.
And a good number of those people, I'm not going to take the match with. I'm not putting up money to pull Travis because I know how that ends, right?
Right.
So, you know, there's it's a limited set of people who are willing.
Yeah,
well, man's got to know his limitations.
Well, the number of people get shaved off on both sides,
Yeah,
makes it tough.
So David Lopez is curious about where do you think your strength level is now versus when you were doing powerlifting? And I would add onto that question, do you think your overall conditioning is better when you're doing arm wrestling training versus powerlifting, or vice versa?
that's hard to answer. I'm definitely not anywhere near as strong in a powerlifting movement as I was when I was powerlifting.
Right.
But I'm 100 times stronger in an arm wrestling movement than I was when I was powerlifting. So it's kind of hard to judge, right? My grip strength, my rotational strength, my wrist curl are light years away from where they were when I was powerlifting. My bench press is, way off of where it used to be. So it's kind of hard to judge. As far as like overall physical condition, I think I'm in better shape now than I was when I was powerlifting. I do a lot more walking, a lot more cardio. My weight's steadily coming down. So, just general condition, I think I'm in better shape than I was then.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Kenny Smith just chimed in here about back when we were talking about whether or not training the chest is useful. He says, and I'd like to hear both of your opinions on it. When he's training chest, he feels like his side pressure straight sideways is much stronger than when he's not training chest. Plus, benching helps his delts get strong. And without training shoulders, he thinks his defense is not as good.
You look jacked, too.
Yeah, you do look jacked.
I can't argue with Kenny because he's one of the strongest dudes I've ever met, pound for pound.
Seriously.
I mean, the guy is, he's chiseled out of stone and just nasty strong. I practiced with him a couple months ago. And I mean, right hand, he's a dead even match. If I just sit power on power in a hook, it's a dead stall. I can't move him. So I can't argue with his logic because it seems to work for him. I think some of the difference though is like for me, I've got so much, let's call it latent strength. Mm-hmm. In my chest and my triceps that's just there from all these years that doing any additional training on it doesn't give me enough difference to translate it to arm wrestling.
Yeah. You're in a little bit. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're obviously in a different position from most of us.
Exactly. I mean, I spent a lot of my life mostly just training that.
Right.
And I've got, even without training, I could probably take 10 years off and not lift a weight, and I'm still pretty strong through my pecs. Mm-hmm. Versus, I've taken a year off before and, sat down and benched 400 the first time I tried it again.
Yeah.
So
right, you end up building you build a foundation that's not really ever going to quite go away.
Right. So that versus the guy who's increasing his bench from 225 to 315 in the 198 class. Yeah, he's probably going to see a heck of a difference there. Mm-hmm. Versus I can bench 405 now, and I work it up to 450, and I still can't tell the difference on the table. It's a different order of magnitude.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is there's some chest involved, and I feel a little stronger when my chest is stronger if my palm is up, side pressure. Where if I am, I'm not in an optimal position for a hook. Where if you want to hook from an offensive position rather than being completely turned under on your, pushing through the heel of your hand. I think chest locking strength from that angle does, help you stay centered a little bit better.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with your setup at the table too. Depending on how you're actually positioning your body at the table is going to determine a lot of which muscles you're using. So you'll get a guy like if you watch the way Jerry Cadorette sets up, mm-hmm. He's all the way up on top of that table. Even when he hooks somebody, he's all the way up on the table. He's packaged up tight. That kind of a position, he's going to use a lot more pec because he's in tight and he's using his whole body and everything, and he's just on it.
Yeah.
Versus the guy who's outside top rolling you're just not going to use it as much because you're so much farther away from the center of the table.
Yeah, and Jerry's hands is like near the center of his chest. It's in the middle here.
Yeah,
as opposed to being out here, maybe more square to the table. Because Jerry, it always impresses me seeing him set up. I don't know how a guy that size gets so wrapped up like that, and then he gets his leg on the table, and he's like,
he does.
He's just
like
so exactly. He's so tightened up and flexible for that big. It's it's crazy.
Yeah, and I've been trying to emulate some of that lately. I've lost enough weight to where I can get my gut over the table instead of in front of it.
There you go.
I'm able to get a little tighter to the table and kind of package up tighter, and it's been helping a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So. What was your weight when you powerlifted compared to now?
I'm just about back to my powerlifting weight. My weight has varied quite a bit over the years. So when I first started powerlifting in like 1997, I was like 315 pounds. My heaviest weight was like 427 in 2006. I got all the way down to like 345, somewhere in the middle of there. Mm-hmm. And then I've been hanging around 400 most of the time since then. If you go back to 2014, I was all the way back to 427 again. Mm. And when I saw that on the scale, I was like, all right, we got to do something a little different here. So I'm back down to like 385. Mm-hmm. Throughout powerlifting, I think I was my strongest, like right at 380.
Okay, I was going to ask, where's that number? Because every strength athlete has that number that if you go below that, it's just not the same guy anymore.
Yeah, because I experienced that because when I was diagnosed with diabetes, I went hardcore Atkins diet for like a year. And I dropped like 75 pounds. I got down to like 345 or something. And I was weak as a kitten. Mm. And I had to start eating more and putting more junk food into my diet. And it kind of messed with my blood sugar a little bit for a while. But I got back to like 380. And it took me a good 6 months to gain that back to where I was strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I hit several competitions in between then. You can just watch the numbers come up.
Right.
So it was definitely influenced severely by the body weight.
And I'll see people drop 20 pounds the right way, nice and slow and easy and all that, and then they feel terrible. Like not to me, but they just feel terrible to them on the table. And then if they stick with it for a little while, 3 months, 4 months, their strength does come back. What do you think that is?
I think a lot of it's getting acclimated. One thing I have noticed is as your body weight changes, your leverages change. Especially as you go down, you lose that leverage that you had where you're leveraging off the body mass. Mm-hmm. Now, arm wrestling, I can go both ways though, because for me, I've been able to change the way I leverage as my weight has come down. So I've lost, like 45, 50 pounds altogether, and I'm still bouncing around a little bit. I'm aiming for 350, but I've been able to get closer to the table and get my hand tighter to my body. So that's helps my leverage.
So your arms a little tighter to the lat and all that.
Yeah. So I can get up tighter. I can get up, I'm up on the table more than spaced away from the table because my stomach's in the way.
Sure.
So.
That makes sense. That's an interesting point about the leverage too. It's not something I thought about, but you're right. I mean, part of your body, you really can use it as a leverage point, and bigger guys like you and Jerry have that, and most of us don't.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Let's see what we got here. Well, Paul Martinetti, we were mentioning earlier, he wants to know if you have advice for people running practices. If you're an experienced puller, how do you teach novices at practice?
Well, step one is have a very, very lawyer-proof waiver for everybody to sign before they come to your house and practice. I wouldn't let anybody practice at my house without signing one. Our practices that we run at Jim Bryan's house, everybody signs a waiver before you practice. So there's rule one. Rule number two, everybody who's new, you sit them down and you explain to them about break arm. That's the number one thing you've got to understand. Once you get them through that, what we usually do is we have a couple of designated guys who are kind of the soft touch guys. They have good knowledge, but there's nothing particularly scary about them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And Paul Martinetti's one of them.
Hey, Paul.
So we stick the new guy. We got this one table that's got like padding down over the corner so you don't bruise your delicate little hip when you're a new guy. And the new guy goes to that table. And we have him practice with some of the smaller guys, some of the guys with a smaller hand. And you want the guys who can communicate well,
mm-hmm.
and the guys who are willing to let a guy beat on him a little bit to make the guy feel better. Because,
sure.
What we don't like to do is we don't want to treat anybody like a tackling dummy.
Right.
And I know there's some people who enjoy that. They invite a guy to their practice and, hey, look, here's the fresh meat. We're going to beat the hell out of him all day until he never wants to arm wrestle again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And we all know those guys, right?
Yeah.
But
that we do.
We try to be a lot more welcoming, a lot more fun, and kind of give them that soft entrance into the sport.
Sure. Yeah, one thing I try to do with newer guys is you'll grab up with them. Go ahead and do what you're gonna do. I'll just, I'm gonna feel you a few times, and you just keep giving them just a little bit more pressure as they're pinning you, just a little more pressure until they're tired now. And then you go, now I'm just gonna go real slow, just give you a little bit of pressure. And now when they get opened up and everything, they're so tired that they're not gonna get hurt now.
Right.
Just get some blood in those things. So then when it's time to, give them a little bit of an offensive, this is what it feels like to arm wrestle. Nothing's gonna pop, nothing's gonna snap.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh my God, because they didn't realize how tired they were.
Right.
But at least it'll keep them safe.
Yeah, and that's usually only 20 minutes into practice. So.
Yeah. And if you let them pin you 10 times and just get a little harder every time, it's within 45 seconds they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing we do. We don't let people go crazy and arm wrestle too much because they always die for the next 3 weeks. They're complaining about, should I go to the hospital? My tendons feel like they're going to pop out of my hands.
Right. And we warn people about that, and I tell them, hey, guys, the first 6 months to 2 years, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So stock up on liniment, stock up on ibuprofen, and stock it up.
Yeah, and it's like, because it's funny too, because like, well, how's it gonna hurt? Like, I like muscle soreness? No, not really. What's it feel like? It feels like hell, actually. Yeah. Kind of like that.
We always describe it to them as a toothache in your arm.
Right. And they're like, what? And then you're like, I'll talk to you in a couple days.
Yeah, tomorrow you're gonna call me on Tuesday and ask me if I should go to the hospi's. That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah, it's like tomorrow your arm's gonna feel terrible. Every time you move, it's gonna be bad. If you lift a gallon of water, it's gonna be terrible. And then the next day is gonna be way worse than that.
Yeah, I still remember my first day. I thought I was bad, so I pulled. And then the next week I came to practice because I'm still bad. It don't matter how bad I hurt, I'm still bad. Mm-hmm. So I pulled for maybe 3 minutes. And then I skipped the next week.
I've been there.
We all have.
Yeah, well, you can't help it. You can't help it. Always push it too far.
You got to go through that. You have to go through that period.
You do. It's true. You definitely have to go through it. I remember when I first came back to arm wrestling, I had a birthday party. Everybody was arm wrestling. And then, I just trained the day before or 2 days before. And then I told my wife, I'm going to go hide in the front porch. Don't tell anybody where I am. And I laid down and tried not to vomit. And that was it. Here's a little wise ass wants to know how many pull-ups you can do.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Sweet.
There you go. So that's if you can do 4 or 5, that's epic. How many years have you been pulling professionally now? I know you told us when you started, but how many years would you consider yourself to have been a professional arm wrestler?
I guess I won my first national in 2011, so I guess I'd base it off of that.
Okay. That's good.
Which national was that?
AAA right hand.
Oh, okay.
Jerry Cataret just chimed in. He wants to tell you congratulations on your new house. Now you have no more excuses, so you better focus on getting stronger.
Thanks, Jerry.
It's good to hear from you, Jerry. So let's see what else we got here. Do you have any special tips for? This is coming from Patty Woods. She's the only woman who trains where she trains, and she says she gets a lot of crap from guys like trying to treat her too easily all the time and that kind of stuff. I mean, do you have any women on your team?
We got a few. Sue Fisher's one of the prominent women on our team, and we've got a couple of novices that train with us. We're always trying to recruit more women. We need more people for Sue to train with to get similar size hand and whatnot. But it's tough for a female training with a bunch of guys because it's just such a differential. It's hard to give advice, but if I was to compare you to Sue Fisher, she's just mean. She comes in ready to kick ass.
Yep.
And she makes it very evident that she's there for one thing, and that's to kick ass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Attitude goes a long way.
It does, yeah.
People treat you according to your attitude. Yeah. If you seem like you're serious and you want to train seriously and you make it very well known that you're very serious, people will be serious with you. If you come in half-assing it, people are going to half-ass the training with you. So it's kind of how much you put forward and how you put it forward is going to make a difference in how people respond to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think some guys, get it like in their heads where, it's not, they're not trying to be malicious or anything like that, but they don't want to hurt somebody. But
exactly.
It's like, you're not going to. It's going to be okay. Just don't be crazy. Don't be a dick. You're not going to hurt anybody. You can get some great training for sure. I've trained with women many times in my career. I've trained with Sue many times. And you're right. She comes in there and she's like, let's pull motherfucker.
Exactly. Yeah. And by the time she's done, you're sore and she's looking for something to train with.
It's true. There's a reason she's so good.
So, and like when she's getting ready for a tournament, I'm the one she practices hitting on. So, because she can hit into my arm all day and I can just absorb it. And, it's more than she will ever have to hit into. So it's a good training tool.
Yeah.
So.
Valerie Beach and Dabe do that to me up in Massachusetts, and I swear to God, it kills every single time. I feel like I've been hit with a hammer, There's so much power. And people, I think Patty's point is, like MMA, which we frequently bring up as a parallel sport, it's a lot of people don't take the women seriously enough because there's not as many of them doing it or what have you. But, over at Worlds, for example, the women over there were just incredible. There's just as many of them as there were guys. They had huge classes, and they were incredible. They took it just as seriously as the men did, and in the United States or North America in general, it's not at that level yet, but I hope that it does go up there. And because I think we have a lot of incredible women here, obviously, like they do in any other country. So it'd be nice to get them in the sport, and hopefully the ESPN stuff is gonna help them. Paul's just saying it took him a year to beat Sue Fisher. So you shouldn't say that out loud because now Sue's going to be extra concentrated on trying to beat you again. That was a mistake right there.
Yeah.
Speaking of the WAF, though, do you have any interest, Shawn, going over there and competing with those guys?
Not really. If they had one in the U.S., I might try to go to it. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's likely to happen for a good long time based on what I've been reading about the politics and everything.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But I just don't have really any interest in traveling to another country and burning a week of my life and all that money just to arm wrestle. I can do that here and make money doing it rather than traveling over there and spending money to do it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind getting into like the Zloty tournament someday if I'm good enough for that. That I might be interested in, but WAF is kind of
Yeah, there's a number of you guys that are at the top or close to the top that feel the way, and I always try to talk you into it because our team, although our team was awesome, Paul being part of it, and they're all great people. We were much more dominant in the masters and grandmasters than we were in the senior class. So it'd be nice to have a few more heavy hitters come with us one year. And Budapest is like a world class city, and Lake Tahoe is in April, so you can change your mind, go down there. win a national title, come to Budapest. Let's see. Donnie Milner is asking about supplements. Do you take any? Do you use them? Is that part of your training regimen, etc.?
I take red yeast rice for my cholesterol. That's it.
I love that, man. That's nice and simple. I don't take anything myself.
I tried taking protein over the years, and my gut can't handle it. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't play well.
Yeah, same with
me.
I'd never liked it.
Yeah, if I drink a protein shake, I can't leave the house. It's pretty bad. And most of the other stuff that's out there as a supplement it's mostly snake oil.
Yeah.
99% of it is just not useful. And it's definitely not useful in the doses that they tell you to take it. Mm-hmm. You'd have to take 5 times the doses they want you to take for you to get anything out of it. I don't know. It's not worth it to me. I couldn't agree more. The way I am. So
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of athletes need to understand the term of bioavailability too. They take a lot of these supplements and forms that are just you're just ruining all of it because you're not supposed to take it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Generally,
but they'll sell it that way.
Yeah. What I've learned over the years is generally if it's legal, it doesn't really help.
That's a good way to put it. Although we did have a doctor on about a month ago who works for the military and UFC guys and stuff, and he said that the one legal performance enhancer you can take is caffeine. He said take as much caffeine as possible on a day of a tournament. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dave Morocco wants to know what you think of Eric Lillibridge, or if there's any other powerlifters that you might think would be good at the sport.
I don't really know Eric, so I couldn't say a lot about him. I've seen some videos of him lifting, but I don't know where his strength lies or where his thought process is or anything like that. Never met the man. So I couldn't say a lot about him. I'll tell you honestly, one female I've been trying to talk into arm wrestling is Scott Mendelson's sister, Shawn. She would be awesome.
Interesting.
I've been trying for the last year to talk her into it. She's got the drive to be really good at anything she wants to try to do. She's just one of those all-around athletic-driven people.
Yeah.
And I think she could be absolutely amazing at it. I just haven't been able to talk her into it yet.
We'll help. You should do it. Do it. Do it.
Yeah, just have her watch this show and how great it is, and it'll be fine.
No, we'll get her on. We'll have her as a guest,
That's
and at the end, she'll be like ready to like tear everybody's arms off.
Yep. That's all it'll take.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. It's been about an hour, and this is the first Westside Conjugate method question.
Boom.
Do you use it? Do you like it? Have you ever? What do you think about the principles behind it? Do they transfer well to?
Yeah, you must know Louis.
And that's from Michael. That's from Michael Hand, who's another one, team member of Team USA this year over in Bulgaria.
No, I have met Louis. I met him probably 15 years ago. He was insane then. I think he's gotten worse.
Fair enough.
There's so many people who train with that Westside method that have been amazingly successful that you can't say it won't work.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Now, I did kind of a half-assed try of it way early in my career. And I maybe gave it 4 or 5 weeks, and I'm like, all right, this sucks. I'm not doing it anymore. I was kind of on the opposite side of that. I trained with a guy named Bill Crawford out of upstate New York, and he had a group called the Metal Militia.
Okay.
And he was the guy who taught me how to bench press.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of innovated the technique around how to bench press with a bench shirt. And he had his own way of doing the training. And it was insane amounts of volume. It was ridiculously heavy all the time, and it would beat you to death, but you got strong.
Right.
And that was kind of the philosophy I followed all through my powerlifting career. Westside works. I mean, there's thousands of people using it, and it does work. For me, I just didn't care for the rotation of the exercises. I'm a lot more habitual than that. I want to do the same thing week after week, and doing this week we're only doing this, and next week we're doing it like this, and then the week after that we're doing it like this.
25 different exercises. You're doing sets of 2 at 60%. And
that kind of stuff is just, guys, I just want to lift something
heavy. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I agree.
So it didn't play well with me, but I think it does work. The world record holders are training Westside style, so you can't say it doesn't work. It just wasn't something I preferred.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that work. You know what I mean? You just got to figure out, like, does that feel good to you? No? Well, then go do something else that works.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Victor. He wants to know what you think about these Russian guys that weigh about 100 kilograms who are deadlifting around 420 kilograms. Saying he's going to beat Eddie Hall's record that Eddie just, pulled up at 500 kilograms about like a month or two ago, whatever it is. Do you know which guy he's talking about? What do you think about it?
I don't. I haven't followed that stuff in years.
Yeah.
I don't know who's who or who's doing what or where the numbers are these days. I know one thing: I wouldn't bet against a Russian.
Yeah.
It's usually not a smart bet in a strength sport.
Well, you got a chemistry question, first of all. I mean, there's when especially Russia right now and all the various allegations that they're facing and drugs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if they seem to have that stuff down, so they, you got to worry about that as well. And, not all powerlifting events test, obviously, so.
Yeah, probably 50% of them don't.
Right.
So.
Oh, Jeff Dabe says he will take you on a Supermatch lefty. So there you go.
Well, if he wants to lose again, that's cool.
You guys' hands, the hands must be close to the same size because Philippe was on here earlier saying when he holds your hand, it's like he's holding an orange. So.
Well, I tell you what, Jeff's hand is just about double mine.
There you go.
It's ridiculous. I trained with him a couple times out here.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I'm sticking my hand in a catcher's mitt. Right? And I'll be honest, the first time I pulled him was in New Orleans, the Wall Finals. He was my first match out of the gate, and his hand scared me to death.
Mm-hmm.
I was honestly scared to try to top roll him, and I wound up at his hook, which is not a good place to be. But I didn't know any better. I'd never seen him with the ball. I didn't know he was a hooker. I managed to pull through him, but it was hard.
Yeah,
and that hand scared me. I've got one of the larger hands in arm wrestling, and his just absolutely scared me.
Yeah, I trained with it a couple times, and yeah, you're right. It's like, what am I gonna do? Like what? Like everything you've ever learned kind of goes out the window when none of it makes sense anymore. You know what I mean? You're like, what? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Funny story about that. I pulled him in the first match, and I beat him. And then I wound up in 2 hook wars with Christian Binney after that.
Sweet.
So by the time I got back to Jeff again,
you're probably fresh.
I got no hook. So I'm coming up to the table. I'm looking at his hand. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to top roll that thing. And let's try it.
Right.
and I got through him, but it was everything I had. And it's just, top rolling through a hand that's, clamped from your index finger all the way halfway down your forearm is really difficult to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just really intimidating, like that mental edge where, you're used to top rolling into a very specific spot, like right here. And when you have to top roll from a whole different area now, you can kind of learn if you have enough time to pull against it multiple times, like, oh, I know exactly where to attack that now. But if you just walk up and just feel it the first time and it's a high-level event and all that, everything's crazy, that's a hard scenario.
Yeah, and that's where I've been the last couple times I pulled. And I'm sorry, Jeff. It is what it is. But I found the spot, and now he's pretty easy to top roll, so I can kind of go through him. And he's been a little frustrated about it. And he's the nicest guy ever.
No, Jeff's great, yeah.
Him and his wife are awesome people.
Yeah,
They're great to hang out with. Yeah, I talk to him on Facebook all the time. They're just awesome. But I think he's really tired of me beating him, and I almost kind of feel bad. But I'm still not going to let him.
Almost there.
You definitely helped motivate him. I'm telling you that right now. He's gonna be listening to the show over and over again and be like, "I'm gonna get him." That's the way to go. Let's see. I missed any questions here? I just want to make sure I'm getting everybody's stuff in, so they won't get angry at me.
Yeah, the fans will eat us.
The fans. Do you do any stuff for like on your rest days or for rehab, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do a lot of remote clicking.
Nice.
So I sit in my chair.
Did you ever do Did you ever do any recovery work while you were in powerlifting, other than just?
Nah, like when I was getting out of powerlifting is when the big recovery craze with all the foam rollers and the cross, all that stuff was just kind of starting.
Right.
So that was like blasphemy to the old school guys like me when everybody starts talking about how they hurt so bad and they need flexibility. You don't need that stuff. Just tear the adhesions loose. You'll be fine. Yeah. So I never really got into any of that kind of stuff. I've done a little bit of like specific stuff. Like I have like they call it a rumble roller.
Okay.
So it's like a foam roller with a bunch of knobbies on it, and I've got some lower back issues, so I use that to loosen up my low back sometimes. But that's about as far as I go into that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a plan to beat all these cats at WL this year? Like, do you have some angles you're preparing for Travis to take him out of his wheelhouse?
Well, if somebody would outlaw the strap, we'd be all set, and I could take Travis out.
Oh, you and Josh would be best friends.
That's right. We would be best friends. I'm using this strap at all the tournaments that I'm running, which is basically just one circle. You tighten it so it takes away all that bullshit advantage.
I want to try that. I want to try that strap because the problem I have is my rotation is my big weapon. Mm-hmm. And if somebody can stop my rotation, which is what Travis is really good at with that strap, then I wind up flat-handed and dead in the water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love the strap myself. I'm good in the strap. I'm good outside the strap too. And shut up, Josh. And I was going to compliment your strap. And I was in his strap at his tournament in New England's. I'd never been in it in my life. I just said, fuck it, I can pull outside the strap. I'll be fine. And I got in that thing, and it felt great. So I can definitely say, like, I'm willing to definitely keep giving it a try.
Yeah, I mean, I want to try. I want to try. There's different variations everybody's doing, right?
Yeah.
It's like Devin's doing that big fat strap now.
Yep.
And he's real big on that. I've pulled with him in that strap. That feels totally different from a regular strap. And then the WAL strap is a little bit thinner, so there's some variance there, and that feels very different. And there's still a couple people out there who are still using the old AAA style strap with the metal rings at the bottom. That
right.
So
Velcros.
So you got to be prepared for all that different stuff.
Yeah, every week I train with the thin strap, an inch strap, and a Devon strap. Every week.
I generally train with whatever I expect I'll see at the next tournament.
Yep.
So
I'm working on the revolution. It hasn't completely taken hold yet. It's because a lot of people out there that whine about, but I like the old strap and it helps me cheat, and now I can't do that anymore. So it's like I'm working on those guys, and everybody's like, "Well, what if this happens and what if that happens?" It's like, well, it hasn't happened yet, so shut up.
The strap is not a surefire. You're going to keep the hands together anyways. I've broken 3 different straps.
100%.
That's the worst feeling.
There's 99% of slips are intentional.
No.
So they are, man. Everybody slips on purpose. That's totally true. If you watch a WAL, it's like people's hands are like they're like opposing ends of a magnet. Just so
that's because there's no penalty there for an intentional slip.
Yep.
Right. So if you want to slip, just go. Don't even grab hold. And there's been a lot of discussion about just starting in the strap.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I think the Rockwell tournaments, they've been playing with that where everybody starts with a loose strap.
Mm.
So I don't know.
I don't either. I feel like the strap for me, like we've said a million times in here, and I'm getting shit about it from people because they're sick of hearing me talk about it. Corey, shut up. I feel like it should be equitable for either side, and that's number one. So if there's any strap came out that was completely equitable, regardless of what side the buckle or strap or whatever else was, then I would have no complaints about it. But that's not the situation we have now, and that's why it's something I think we need to fix. But anyway, straps being what they are, let me get in this last question from this gentleman, Steven, who wants to know, what advice would you give to a 47-year-old power lifter who has interest in becoming an arm wrestler?
Best thing to do is find a team to practice with near you. Get a hold of them. However, I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff out there on the internet and Facebook and everything else for how to find people.
Yep.
And walk on in. Go ahead and try. We've got one guy who trains with us. I power lifted with him back in like 2003, 2004. He showed up to a wall tournament back in 2014. It was the first time I'd seen him in 10 years. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. He lives not too far from us. He's been training with us since then. The guy was like a 700-pound squatter. He's a 280, 290-pound guy, big, strong dude. He's still learning how to arm wrestle.
Sure.
It's taken him a long time to get there because he's going through everything I went through.
Uh-huh.
I'm so strong, but not at this.
Yeah, that really sucks.
But he's a good guy with a good attitude, and he's all in kind of guy. He's all in with the training. He's all in with the team. He just great dude, and he's pushing and he's pushing and he's pushing, and he's making really good strides.
Yep.
He just doesn't recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tell newer guys who are having that trouble, I'm like, you got to find something that you love about this thing other than winning, because a year will fly by if you do. If you figure something out that you love this thing about and that doesn't include winning, a year will fly by. But if you're so miserable every single day that you can't win in this thing, you're gonna quit after 3 months.
Yeah.
But if you have fun, dude, you'll go through a year and you'll be so much better at the end.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, my goal was beat the 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, me too. Corey Bresnan used to beat the shit out of me every week. Son of a bitch.
And
Corey's tough.
As time went by, my big goal at one point was to be able to crack Jim Bryan's wrist open.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
And when I finally did it, I did a happy dance. I did everything but a victory lap. Had nothing to do with winning at a tournament, but boy, I'm going to break that wrist open one of these days.
Yeah, totally.
We all have benchmarks like that we're trying to meet for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So and it's the little stuff, right? You can't set a goal right out the gate. I'm going to be a world champion. That doesn't get you anywhere. You've got to set goals that you can achieve in a week, and a goal you can achieve in a month, and a goal you can achieve in 6 months. You can't set the big goal and just work towards that. It's too far away. It's too nebulous. It's hard to get there. So, but yeah, for a new guy, the best thing to do is just find a team. Just find somebody close to you to train with and dig in.
Yeah, I agree. Hit us up on, message us at Hand Control. We'll try to find you a team.
Absolutely, yes. Let us know where you are, man. We'll find some people for you to train with.
Mm-hmm.
Getting some love on Facebook, John, for your poetic renditioning of arm wrestling stuff. So. This guy, Steven Nilsson, says he bench pressed in your New Jersey SSA bench meet. So
I've known him for years.
Okay, there you go. So yeah. So yes, there's your advice, man. Be patient, jump in the sport. We can use more huge, strong guys. So come on down.
And there's only like 4 teams training in New Jersey, so
yeah, there's quite a few of you guys.
Yeah.
New Jersey's going crazy right now. All right, well, we've kept you on it for an hour and 20 minutes, man. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about or stuff we didn't bring up.
Nah, I was just going with the flow. So
that's what we usually do. This has been awesome, man. I learned a lot from you. I love talking to smart, charismatic people like yourself, and it always makes the show go by quicker. I still think you should think about WAF, but I hope you win WAL this year, and I'm looking forward to watching you.
I appreciate it. I'm hoping I can actually do something. We'll see.
We will see.
Well, let's start with a short goal. Have fun and good luck this weekend.
Yes.
Thanks.
There you go.
All right, guys.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Till next time.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Adios.